Hello and welcome to this week's variant proportion update for the United States for the coronavirus pandemic. We are going to be looking at multiple different variants with the BA.5 variant, BA.4.6 variant, BF.7, BA.2.75, and the BA.4 variants. Starting off here, we will go through all the HHS regions, and starting off with the national level. BA.5 is 81.3% of the cases. BA.4.6 is 12.8% of the cases. That's up from last week. BF.7 is 3.4% of the cases, also up. BA.2.75 is 1.4% of the cases, and BA.4 is 1.1% of the cases. You will see in all regions BA.5 slowly starting to drop, as 4.6, BF.7, and 2.75 variants start to gain ground. And 4.6 is continuing to gain the most ground at this point, followed by BF.7, and 2.75 is not really gaining much ground. It's the BF.7 is the one that I'm really watching. But at the moment, BA.6, as you will see as we go into the regions here, has increased quite a bit in some regions. Alright, Region 1, Connecticut, Maine, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Rhode Island, and Vermont. BA.5 is 79.6% of the cases. That is down from last week. BA.4.6 is 12.3% of the cases. That is up from last week. BF.7 is 5.7% of the cases. That's up from last week. That's almost doubled, in fact. BA.2.75 is now 1.6% of the cases, and the old BA.4 variant is just under 1% of the cases. Region 2, New Jersey, New York, Puerto Rico, and the Virgin Islands. BA.5 is 77.2% of the cases. BA.4.6 is up to 15% of the cases. BF.7 is 4.5% of the cases. BA.2.75 is 2.4% of the cases. And BA.4 is only 0.8% of the cases. So BA.4 is continuing to drop in this region and really in all regions. But the biggest takeaway from this region is 15% for the 4.6 variant, subvariant. Region 3, Delaware, District of Columbia, Maryland, Pennsylvania, Virginia, and West Virginia. Yet again, you'll see much of the same here. BA.5 is 77.5% of the cases. BA.4.6 is 15.8% of the cases. BF.7 is 4.4% of the cases. BA.2.75 is 1.3% of the cases. BA.4 is 1% of the cases. With 4.6 really starting to pick up the pace in this region. Region 4, Alabama, Florida, Georgia, Kentucky, Mississippi, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Tennessee. BA.5 here makes up 78.2% of the cases. That's down from last week. BA.4.6 is now 16.6% of the cases. That's up from last week. BF.7 is 3.1% of the cases. BA.4 is 1.1% of the cases. And in last place is the BA.2.75 subvariant. Region 5, Illinois, Indiana, Michigan, Minnesota, Ohio, and Wisconsin. BA.5 makes up 83.6% of the cases. BA.4.6 makes up 10% of the cases. BF.7 makes up 3.7% of the cases. BA.2.75 1.7, and BA.4 1.1% of the cases. Alright, now we move on to Region 6, Arkansas, Louisiana, New Mexico, Oklahoma, and Texas. BA.5 makes up 86.2% of the cases. BA.4.6, 8.9% of the cases. BF.7, 2.2% of the cases. BA.4, 1.5% of the cases. BA.2.75, 1.3% of the cases. And now Region 7, Iowa, Kansas, Missouri, and Nebraska. This is the most interesting region for the 4.6 variant because it has been most dominant in this region compared to all the other regions. BA.5 makes up 74.6% of the cases. That is down. BA.4.6 is now 21.9% of the cases. BF.7 is 1.6% of the cases. BA.4 is 1.2% of the cases. BA.2.75 is 0.7% of the cases. Now we move on to Region 8. Colorado, Montana, North Dakota, South Dakota, Utah, and Wyoming. BA.5 makes up 89.4% of the cases. BA.4.6 is only 7% of the cases. BF.7 is 1.5% of the cases. BA.4 is 1.1% of the cases. And BA.2.75 is 0.9% of the cases. So far, this region has the highest amount of BA.5 subvariant that we have seen, with 89.4%. However, will that be the same on Region 9, which is Arizona, California, Hawaii, Nevada, American Samoa, Commonwealth of Northern Mariner Islands, and Federated States of Mysorona? Here you'll see BA.5 is still 90% of the cases. BA.4.6 is 5% of the cases. BF.7 is 2.2% of the cases. BA.2.75 is 1.8% of the cases. And BA.4 is 1% of the cases. For some reason, BA.5 in this region is really holding on strong. Alright, one more region. Region 10, Alaska, Idaho, Oregon, and Washington. In this region, BA.5 makes up 88.2% of the cases. BA.4.6 makes up 5.3% of the cases. BF.7 makes up 3.5% of the cases. BA.2.75 is 2.1% of the cases. And BA.4 is 1% of the cases. So overall, what you will see is, generally in the East, the BA.4.6 and the BF.7 variants are really starting to gain ground, while the BA.2.75 is struggling to gain ground, not only in the East, but also in the West. I think it's clear to me BF.7 is going to overpower 2.75, and I think it's possible the BA.2.75 could be another BA.4 like, where it tries to get going but doesn't really get going. What's also interesting, as we saw, 4.6 in some regions, especially like Iowa, which would be Region 7. Let's go back to that. If we go back to Region 7, it's now up to 21.9% of the cases. So the wild card there is, would it ever get to the point that it actually takes over and becomes dominant? It's tough to say. It could, but it's really gaining ground there. And the BF.7 at the moment, it's starting to gain ground, but not as fast as BA.6. So I think BA.4.6. So I think BA.4.6 in this region will at least get to 30 to 35% of the cases. And what happens from there, I really don't want to speculate, but either one or the other is going to take over. And eventually, as time goes on, BF.7 is going to overpower all of the current variants in all the regions. Alrighty, thanks for watching this video. Remember to hit like and subscribe down below. And stay safe, everyone.